Good morning, friends. Welcome to my health talk. This is my fifth health talk. I hope all of you have liked my previous talks. In this gloomy time of pandemic, everybody is speaking about Corona. I don't want to talk on Corona. Something interesting I thought, which is very useful for us also. This is the common question which is being asked by patients as well as the normal people during my health talks in various forums. They ask us whether we can really predict and prevent a future cardiac events like heart attack, because everybody is scared of heart attack. Nothing to worry, because way back in 50s, 60s, the heart mortality of after heart attack was somewhere around 50%. That means 50% of people who develop heart attack never used to survive. Now it is hardly 3 or 4%. That means because of the advancement in the technology, and various in the scientific advancements have helped us to prevent the deaths which occur due to heart disease. But however, somebody develops a heart attack in your own family circle or friends, they will have one question. Che, I should have avoided this attack. Is there any way which we can make out the events in early only so that we could have taken some preventive aspects? So today my talk is based on how to predict as well as prevent the cardiac events. However, to tell you very frankly, 100% can we predict and prevent? No, 100% we cannot predict a cardiac event. Only God can only save us as far as the prediction is concerned. But however, there is an attempt made by us to show the scientific evidence and how can we predict. Particularly today, my talk, I'm going to give some newer technologies which is based on predicting the heart events in future. So let me try to highlight you about the incidence of heart disease and various factors. First thing is that the cardiovascular disease is the first disease, the first killer of the humanity. All over the world, it is the number one killer. Even now also, although the Western countries, the heart disease incidence is decreasing, still it is number one killer. In India, it is increasing. Yes, it is number one killer. Cardiovascular disease claims almost one life in every 33 seconds. However, we should also know that there is some amount of prevalence of the disease is I want to highlight. Number one is a global burden. So almost 182 millions in 2019 had heart diseases. So almost 9.14 millions died because of that. So therefore, in India also, almost a prevalence rate of around 7 to 14% prevalence. So of the population of 1.4 billions. So in 4.77 millions died in 2020 because of the heart disease. So these are all some of the facts which are there. However, what we have to look at is, in Western countries, the heart diseases are decreasing, but in India, why it is increasing? It is a little alarming situation, because we are finding more of heart diseases in younger people. Below age of 40 years, people are dying of heart attacks. What is the reason? The sharp rise of heart disease in India is basically because of the economic progress we have made in the for the past few decades, as well as lifestyle changes. We are changing, we are imitating the Western lifestyle changes, which is also helpful. And there, most of the Westerners are becoming vegans and vegetarian diet. They are giving a lot of importance. We keep on eating a lot of junk food and red meat, which also may be one of the reasons for increase of the heart disease. The food habits have changed. Somehow we are genetically prone. And small vessel disease, that means in my first talk on tips for heart diseases, I have emphasized this fact that by birth we have somewhere like the arteries which supply blood to the heart. The coronary arteries are small, a small vessel diameter. So we are called the highest incidence of diabetes. We are called almost the diabetic capital of the world. And of course, the smoking also has increased. Although we look at it, the public places, it is banned, still the smoking incidence is higher among those patients who get admitted below 40 years of age for heart attack in men. So these are the factors which has affected sharp rise. And these risk factors, all of us know. I don't want to go to the too much details about it, which I have highlighted in my first talk. There are risk factors like non-modifiable risk factors, as I've highlighted, that the men are more prone for heart disease, but women are protected during their productive age up to 40 years, 45 years of age. But after the menopause, they also climb the ladder in the curve, and it almost equals to the men. And as far as the modifiable risk factor, which is very well known to us, no details need to be told, because smoking, hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, obesity, these things are known to that. But let me highlight this point. For example, the newer emerging risk factors. This is very important because the psychosocial factors play a major role. Extreme stress. Now all of us are gloomed to the house. We have lockdown because of the pandemic. Not much movements are occurring, and people are economically also down. There's a lot of stress on on everybody. So that also add to the cardiological events. At the same time, we physicians, we are the health workers, we are the frontline workers. We are overstressed because of the disease pandemic, and therefore what we call it as physicians burnout. This is also affecting our health also. Emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, these are all the new psychological factors, because you can say that sometime you will find out some neighbor or any of friends of you or in your family members, suddenly they will have a heart attack and die, and they say that, oh, he didn't have any problem, there was no diabetes, no risk factor, he was not smoking, his diet was good. Why did he die? Because mainly we feel that present situation, the stress is the main culprit for the heart events. So other than that, the air pollution, their sleep deprivations, sitting disease, particularly IT people, they keep on sitting in front of a laptop or a computer for long hours. And being an Indian, which I highlighted in the last hour, is we are at the risk, at the risk by birth only. Therefore, we have to be careful with these risk factors in line. However, can we just predict the future events? This is my today's talk. Yes, I think, as I told you, not 100%, but we can make small beginning to predict the future events. First thing is the cardiac checkup. Everybody will say that what is the use of doing cardiac checkup? Because, so there is always some use in cardiac checkup, because some of the unknown diseases can be brought out. Say, for example, I feel that at the age of 35, 40 years onwards, everybody should have a cardiac checkup or a health checkup once a year, because there are some parameters which can be high without a symptom. For example, you can be detected a diabetic, pre-diabetes, or you may have a high cholesterol, which does not have any symptoms. You may have a blood pressure, which is uncontrolled blood pressure, or first time onset of blood pressure, because as I told in the last topic, almost 50 to 75% of the people who are having blood pressure are not aware of it. So unless you go for a checkup, how can you know this? Unless you go for a checkup, the blood routine checkup, sometimes thyroid diseases are made out. They don't have any symptoms. So therefore, routine blood investigation as a health checkup is a must for above the age of 40 years at least. Once a year, we should keep checking our blood. Then the other cardiac checkup, when you come to us for a cardiac checkup, we do basic ECG, we do echocardiography, we do a treadmill, we do. And these are the basic investigation, which we call it as non-invasive investigations. It will help us to find out, suppose if any of these investigations are abnormal, we can investigate further, and that can prevent an event. The other special non-invasive investigation which I like to highlight is about the CT calcium score, which I am going to give some more details later. That is also a type. Above the age of 40 years in male and above the age of 50 years in female can also have a CT calcium score as one of the predictors of the heart event in future. So we decide which patient should go for CT score, that I'm going to give in details later. Now, other one important is the carotid artery intima thickness. There is an artery which supplies blood to the brain, that is carotid artery, which is palpable on the right, on both the side of the neck. So we do ultrasound of that every year or once in 2-3 years. we can find out the thickness of the intima, that is the wall thickness, and whether there is any evidence of cholesterol blockage in that. That also gives the age of the artery. So last time I have told you about the vascular age. So what is your age? That is a chronological age. When you are born, you say that you are 40 years old, 50 years old because of the date of birth. But that is not important in life. What is important is the vascular age. That means if your age, chronological age is 40 years, your vascular age, if it's 60 years, then there's no point at the age of 40 only, you are already older by 20 years. So that is alarming. So your vascular age should almost equal to the chronological age. How can we do that? That is done by lifestyle modification, which I'm going to highlight later. Then there is Israeli scientists have come out with one device called EndoPat, which is placed between the index fingers, and it measures the blood flow in the arteries and predict the myocardial infarction, that is heart attack, for the next 7 years. I'm not very sure about this, the device which has been developed, but we have to wait for some more time before we conclude that. This is one new information for you. Now, this is actually the cut slides of the artery, wherein which we see the cholesterol getting accumulated. As I told you about the carotid intima thickness, the same way, this is where the yellow cholesterol, which keeps accumulating on the surface of the internal lamina of the artery and keeps growing in size. This accumulation of the cholesterol occurs from the 9th year of age, so young. But for some people, it accumulates in a bigger way, causing the obstruction and the heart problem. So that is one to be kept in mind. Now, the calcium score, which I told you, the calcium score, suppose if your CT calcium score is 0, that is low risk for CVD for the next 5 years. That means to say that the events of cardiac events are less in them. It is not 0. Please note that nothing is absolute in our predictions. If your CT score is less than 100, it is mild. If the CT score is more than 400 units, that means severe. So that means they have almost in 10 years, the chance of cardiac events are high. Suppose if your CT calcium score is 1000 and more, then there is a 25% chance of they getting heart attack in the next 10 years. So what can be done? How do we prevent it? Now we are predicted by the calcium score. You have to prevent means you have to go for further investigation like an angiogram and further treatment as deemed fit. Now, special blood investigations. So these are the investigation we do for primary prevention. That means somebody comes, a young fellow comes to you saying that I want to know my heart status. I want to prevent a heart event in my future. What are the investigation you can do? These are the investigation we do, special investigation. First one is called HSCRP, that is high sensitive CRP, lipoprotein A, small a, apolipoprotein B, then glycated hemoglobin for the prediction of the diabetes, then homocysteine level, uric acid, thyroid function test. These are all some of the investigation we do it. What is HSCRP? CRP we know because in COVID era, everybody talks about CRP. HSCRP is a high sensitive CRP. It is primarily derived from liver. It is found in the atherosclerotic intima of the arteries. And there are more than 24 trials have proved that it is strongly and independently predicts the risk of heart attack, stroke, and sudden cardiac death among the healthy individuals. So that means this is the one which can predict to some extent. I can't say 100%, to some extent. It's a very easy, it is not very costly also. We can do HSCRP and then predict and also the new information has come. If you have a HSCRP high, it also predicts the onset of type 2 diabetes, which is also a good information. Looking at the HSCRP, every year I do HSCRP. So what it shows, it means if your HSCRP is less than 1, you have low risk. Mine is 0.6. So that means to say that every year when you look at your HSCRP, the prediction and the events can be predicted to some extent. Suppose if your HSCRP is 1 to 3, it is moderate risk, and more than 3 is high risk. So somebody gets a HSCRP and find it's very high, don't get scared, because first only one reading is not considered as very high all the time. So therefore, we may have to repeat this HSCRP after 2-3 weeks, 1 or 2 times, because sometimes inflammation and infection also increases it. So once everything is normal, if your HSCRP is persistently high after the repetition also, that means you are at risk. This is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that, particularly for us, my cardiology and physician friends who are watching, they should know that HSCRP can also be used as one of the tools for deciding when to start the anti-cholesterol tablet called statin. Suppose if we do that correlate with the bad cholesterol LDL. If LDL is more than 160 and HSCRP is high, we start statin. If it is less than 130 and HSCRP is normal, we don't start statin. So this also prognostication also it helps. And for us to decide about the role of statin also it helps. Now, LPA is a small lipoprotein A, very atherogenic cholesterol. It is very, very specific, particularly in South Asians and Indians, more in South Asian Indians. And we have to do it every year once. And this will show us if the LPA is more than 30, it is high risk. We should try to get it below 20, which is optimal. Apolipoprotein B levels also more than 130 is at higher risk. Now, coming to the HbA1c. This is a very important tool, because many patients, when many people come to us, I ask them, are you diabetic? They say, no, sir. We have tested our fasting sugar. It is always 190. So for testing fasting sugar is not going to give you a diagnosis of diabetes or no diabetes. It helps you, because that is not the ultimate thing. What we have to do is the glycated hemoglobin, which is an average of 3 months of your blood sugar, is represented in that. Normally, glycated hemoglobin is below 6. Suppose if it is between 6 to 7, it is called pre-diabetes. Now we have got how to prevent cardiac event. Let me come to this point. Suppose if you are pre-diabetic between 6 to 7, then if we treat that, if you lifestyle modification of that, you can prevent a full onset clinical diabetes. Second one, by lifestyle modification. Second one, even the cardiac events also can be predicted by looking at the pre-diabetic level. Therefore, glycosylated hemoglobin is a very important tool. Other important tool is uric acid. Uric acid is normally not done. We do it routinely. I do personally, I do uric acid routinely. The reason is that higher uric acid, more than 7 in men and more than 6 in women, can lead to, it is one of the risk factors for heart disease. Apart from it is also can cause the renal stone, kidney stones, and as well as the gout. The homocysteine levels are very important, because sometimes more than 50 micromoles of homocysteine increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, thrombosis, osteoporosis, dementia, and Alzheimer's. So every 10% increase of homocysteine increases the heart disease by 10%. Then this is most important. Now, finally, we have come to conclusion on what way we can assess the cardiovascular risk. There is an app called ASCVD Risk Estimator Plus. So all of you have smartphones, and you can download this app. This is the American College of Cardiology app called ASCVD Risk. If you download this app, then you have to enter these parameters. So before you download this app, you enter this, go for these parameters first. Age of the person, sex, race. When it comes to race, white and non-white it comes. Then systolic blood pressure, the diastolic blood pressure, total cholesterol, good cholesterol, HDL, bad cholesterol, LDL, then hypertension, diabetes, whether you are taking medicine like statin, which is cholesterol lowering tablet, or an aspirin. These things it asks, and if you add all these things, it gives a score. This gives a score for the event for the next 10 years. Now, for example, if your score is less than 5, that means your risk is less, low risk is less than 5%. Borderline is 5 to 7.4%. Intermediate risk is 7.5 to 19.9%. And high risk is more than 20. Suppose if you are into the first and second category, then lifestyle modification itself is enough. But if you are in third and fourth category, we do interventions in the form of either dietary interventions or medical interventions are required in that. So therefore, ASCVD risk factor is very important. Then, of course, there are some newer investigational tools. We do it in cath lab when we do an angiogram to find out which block is going to open, which block is open and causing attack in future. So there are something like optical coherence tomography or ultrasound, which is done. This is a higher end investigation to know the predicting the plaque. And these are all some of the photos which shows that the young MI, that means below 40 years of age, somebody can develop a heart attack. In India, it is very common, and it is very high. I'm not telling common. A lot of people who are young people are getting affected. Particularly this patient, if you see that she's a lady who has come with all the 3 vessels showing block at the age of 32. So what we say is women are protected up to 45 years. That is only if they don't have any other risk factors like diabetes. She was diabetic. So therefore she had all the 3 vessels were showing some blockages, and she underwent bypass surgery because of the multi-vessel disease. So this is another photo which shows that how the heart attack occurs, because what happened, just because there is a cholesterol in the arteries, it doesn't mean that it will break open and cause the attack. But if it breaks open, this is the area, the cholesterol, yellowish cholesterol, which is there. Somehow, for some reason, the wall of the cholesterol gets broken up, and then the whole clot, it attracts the platelets, which becomes a clot, and the clot keeps increasing in size, which causes the obstruction of the flow and then the heart attack. Now, there are other biomarkers of inflammation, which is also, but it is not routinely done. Now, how to identify a cardiac event? Till now, we are trying to predict. Now we are trying to identify the event. The warning signs, this is very important, because most of the patients say that she died without any symptoms. Actually, it is not true. A cardiac event will have some symptoms, but these symptoms are neglected or considered as gastritis by the patient themselves without consulting. So do not presume the symptom that it is gastritis unless we as physicians investigate and tell you. So what happens is the warning signs is there for all the people. Sometimes there will be atypical presentation, like particularly elderly people, or if they're diabetic. Sometimes they may not get the typical chest pain which occurs in the retrosternal point below the chest, a gripping pain, severe pain, which also comes to their left hand, to their neck, as well as the back, with profuse sweating, sometimes feeling like almost doomed situation. Like that is a typical of heart attack or heart disease pain. So if you have any unusual symptom, please don't estimate yourself as gastritis. Please come to us or any of the physician nearby and get yourself evaluated. Now, what are the newer gadgets to identify in advance? We are very happy to see the scientific advances. Look at that. Most of us, we have smartwatches. We have smartphones. There are a lot of apps available now which are helpful for us to record the ECG. For example, if you are having an Apple Watch, you can record an ECG in that. And that ECG can be transferred to the physician or a cardiologist, because one lead ECG can be recorded by your Apple Watch. At the same time, Apple Watch also gives indication of the heart rate variation also. Suppose if you develop a irregular heart rate, what we call it as atrial fibrillation, can also be detected by them. So smartphones and smartwatches are very helpful for identifying the cardiac event. Then another thing is an artificial intelligence. It has also come into play because there is a large study of about 1,000 patients by the University College of London. They have done a cardiac MRI of 1,000 patients and to identify the areas of blood flow, blood supply reduced, and by using artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of new technological advances which are going on. Now, the next part of my talk is how to prevent a cardiac event. Can we prevent it? Yes, to some extent. First is the history. Now, when a patient comes to me, I'll ask, is there any history of heart disease in the family? They get confused. The actual history, somebody dies or somebody is diagnosed to have heart disease, or somebody has undergone a procedure like an angiogram or angioplasty below the age of 50 years is called as precocious onset of heart disease. So if you have your brother, sister, or anybody in parents had a heart problem below age of 50 years, that means you have a genetic history. In this group of patients, we not depend on non-invasive investigation like ECG, echo, TMT. It may not show. So those who have genetic history, we do directly an angiogram. And the siblings also will have to undergo screening, because many in our clinical practice of 30 years, I've found a lot of people who have strong family history. They come without any symptoms. When we say you have to go for an angiogram, say, I don't have any symptom, my TMT is negative. Why? Because sometimes it cannot pick up. So therefore, when we do an angiogram, to our surprise, they will have very tight lesion block. And that block, if we clear it by angioplasty or surgery, that prevents a cardiac event. So therefore, preventing cardiac event also in a genetic history is a very important history when we take. Other than that, lifestyle modification, I have highlighted this in my previous talks, modifying risk factors, then treating diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, then diet, exercise, sleep, stress, everything I have highlighted in the last talk. At the same time, there are some new drugs which have come for diabetic treatment. And these drugs not only control the diabetic, they also prevent the cardiac event. That also has to be kept in mind. Now, dietary approach is the DASH approach, which saliently I want to tell is the rich diet of fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy products, skinless poultry, oily fish, nuts, and whole grains. Let us concentrate on fruits, more of fruits, and more of vegetables to reduce the homocysteine levels also. And berry is always good for heart. And of course, way to relax. Stress is the most important factor. Therefore, we have to relax. Enjoy music, do gardening, read books. It's helpful to us. And living the active physical life. Whatever reason, whatever age we are, we have to be actively physically involved for at least half an hour to 45 minutes in a day, at least most of the day of the week. The living the active life with physical activity always tries to reduce the onset of diseases. So it is better to prevent it rather than treat the disease. Managing the stress, spend more time with family. And so good health mantra, which always I repeat, last time also I told about this, the 4 major pillars of good health is good food, have a balanced food, good exercise, regular, moderate intensity, good sleep, 6 to 8 hours, uninterrupted, deep sleep, very much important. Please give importance to sleep. Good genes, as I told you, strong genes inheritance. What you inherit from your parents is not the property, it is the good genes. And last is God's blessing, which is very important. Now, what is our goal to reduce CV risk? These are all multiple. In summary, I can say that maintain an ideal weight. BMI should be 25. Waist should be less than 90 centimeter. Waist hip ratio 0.88. Sugar 110. All these things has to be kept in mind to achieve a CV risk reduction. And there are some chats, there are some questions being asked. So what I want to know is there are 2 important questions which will be asked to me by most of the patients. First thing is that, what about aspirin? So everybody says that they think that 1 aspirin, if we take, we can prevent a heart attack. It is totally wrong. So initially there was a slogan called, an apple a day keeps a doctor away. That is okay. Like you take an apple, it is good for you, but it does not keep a doctor away. But the next came is an aspirin a day keeps a doctor away. No, that is wrong. So therefore, nobody should take an aspirin as a prevention if they don't have a disease. It is not considered for primary prevention. So there is no evidence. The European Society of Cardiology does not recommend it routinely. So, but aspirin we give for those who have disease, like a proved coronary artery disease, proved stroke and other cases. That is very useful. So aspirin is good for those where it is indicated. By your sake, you don't take the aspirin by yourself. The other question is, which they ask, is about the statin, the cholesterol lowering tablet. This is also rampantly used by many people. Many of the physicians also are using it. According to me, we say big no to anti-cholesterol tablet by as a primary prevention. That means you don't have any risk factors, you don't have disease, then you should not just take statin just to reduce the cholesterol lowering effect. No, it is not required. But however, we decide if there is a risk factor for you and there is a specific level of cholesterol, bad cholesterol, and we also take into consideration other parameters like HSCRP, and then we decide which person requires statin. So without that, please don't consume statin or an aspirin by yourself. I think that this is a slogan we should always know: hurry, worry, curry. All are bad to our heart, as therefore you should look after these things. So this hurry, worry, curry is most important for us to avoid in our life. So there is so ultimately your heart is in your hands. So you have to look after by carefully managing the lifestyle modifications and following it. Put your heart, mind, and soul into even your smallest acts. This is the secret of success. And thank you so much for listening to my talk. Some more health talks are on the way. I hope all of you are doing well in this pandemic situation, and don't get scared. We will somehow win this situation. We'll come out of it, of this corona situation. I hope that my talk is useful, and some more talks will be on the way. And thank you so much. Have a nice day. Thank you.